Morning, everybody. Welcome to Daryl Buu's weekly updates for February the 8th on a sunny, beautiful sunny Monday morning. How's it going, Buu?
Yeah, good, thanks. We had a weekend in downtown Vancouver, just stayed out there for my kid's birthday, and yeah, it was good weather, but it was also really cold, so we tried to get out for a couple walks, and we're met with some winds that were pretty cold, and the kids couldn't quite stand that, so we stayed inside a bit. The kids actually, of all things, just wanted to be in the pool, so I was pretty impressed that we went all that way downtown and they just wanted to swim in the pool. But that's all right. They still had lots of fun doing that. And yeah, otherwise, I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but I assume that was part of your weekend there?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we went for the weekend. We were, my wife, Yvonne, she's got a big project she's working on for her work. So most of her Saturday was kind of unfortunately stuck behind a computer. So I just spent Saturday catching up and running some errands and getting some work done myself. But yesterday, with the nice weather, we actually were probably down where you guys were. We went for a run along the seawall, just kind of parked by the bay shore there, and went for a run along the seawall, and then came back, did kind of a little bit of a brunch and happy hour at Cardero's there, which was nice. They've got, I'm sure most people who have checked that place out, but still have live music in their lounge. Had a guitar player, which was kind of cool. So just chilled there for a bit, and then recorded the Super Bowl game, and I'm glad I actually did, because amazing that Tom Brady did it again, but it wasn't really ever really close. Tampa kind of had it sealed early, and but yeah, I watched the recording of it, and just absolutely, like everybody else, fascinated how Tom Brady just continues to be great as an individual player, but as the years go on, I appreciate more and more, I think, how that guy is just such an amazing leader and makes people around him better. He went into a franchise, albeit with lots of talent they had picked up, but I think they were the most losing franchise in all of sports, not just football.
Wow.
And in 1 year, turned them into Super Bowl champions. And
wow.
Like I said, lots of talent, but I firmly believe that if it wasn't for Tom Brady kind of changing the whole culture of that organization and bringing everybody together and going in the same direction, there's no way they would have won the Super Bowl. So amazing to watch. And he's not done by any means, but when this guy actually does finally hang it up, it'll be interesting to see if he writes a book or does a movie about just how he does things, because he's a very, very humble guy, and I don't think he really talks about it a lot. But anyways, pretty fascinating and impressive.
Very cool.
So we've got our good friend Ryan waiting in the wings here.
Here he is.
Hey guys.
Hey. How you doing, Ryan?
Good. How are you? Nice to catch up with you guys.
Yeah, likewise. How was your weekend? Did you take in the Super Bowl at all, or I think you're a bit of a football
I was
guy.
in Whistler. We were, my daughter and I do a daddy-daughter ski weekend every year, so it was our weekend to go skiing, and we timed our exit perfectly yesterday to get on the road from Whistler, and we pulled into our house at 2:58. So I walked in the door and turned on the Super Bowl.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, it was perfect. So I agree. The game was less than super exciting, but I found myself cheering for the Bucks because I wanted to see Brady and kind of pull off that incredible result of just, he's got more Super Bowls now than any other franchise.
Yeah.
Like he's just, I was never really a big supporter of the Patriots, but there's something special about what he does. I agree with you, Daryl. Like he should be, whatever it is that he does, he should tell everybody else how to do it.
Yeah, it really is, and you say this not having any sort of inkling as to what goes on behind the scenes, but more and more you hear from guys that played with him for all of those great years, some of his years, because none of them really kept up with him for the entire time he was there. And they all kind of say the same thing, that whole organization. Yes, Bill Belichick was a great coach and all sorts of good things, but it was really Tom Brady that kind of guided that ship. But
yeah, I mean, you think of the Patriots from last year to this year, or the opposite, where you put the Bucs in with Brady, and you see the Patriots miss the playoffs, you see the Bucs make it and win, and Antonio Brown is back playing, and he's not really supposed to be there, and he's catching touchdowns, and Gronk's back out of retirement and catching touchdowns, and so look at it and go, he can make retired players better, he can make active players better. With all due respect to the coaches, like obviously he's the main straw that stirs the drink there for sure.
Yeah. And Antonio Brown, just not to stay on football all morning here, but the fact that he just all of a sudden became quiet again and went about his business and didn't, do anything silly. Yeah, you got to attribute some of that to just being around Tom Brady. I think that's the cool part of what Brady brings to the mix is he can change people's behavior and get them looking pointing in the direction of just the result, and he can take the guys who are not in control and get them in control. It's just there's something very, very special about him, and I'm not really that much of his fan, but you have to respect the fact that he can take that wide of a group of people over that many years and make them all successful. He's very special. Yeah, beyond coincidence.
Maybe maybe for the non-football watchers, we can kind of you guys can give the storyline of how does someone like Tom Brady, who won a bunch of Super Bowls, end up not playing for the Patriots anymore, ends up on another team, and then all of a sudden Gronkowski's with them, and then all of a sudden they get to a Super Bowl. How does this timeline look?
Yeah, you go ahead, Ryan. Yeah,
he was a free agent, so it was coming to the end of the run in New England, and so this past season he was a free agent, but it was really they saw it coming that the contract was running out, and I think he was getting tired of there was a certain way that the Patriots did things, and I think he was running out of steam. And Gronkowski was with him in New England, retired the year prior, so he'd been out of football for 2 seasons, and Brady decided to test the free agent market, and it was obvious where he was going to go. But Gronkowski was his big tight end receiver and probably a Hall of Famer in his own right before he joined the Bucs. And I actually was listening to the interview last night where Gronkowski said, he's like, I was waiting for Tom to make his next move, and I knew I was going to come along for the ride. And they brought in this sort of really super talented but highly volatile receiver, and Antonio Brown, into New England for a bit. He didn't work for the franchise, so they kicked him out again and sort of sent him on his way. And Brady went to the Bucs and said, I can play with this guy. We can make him good. And so they brought him out of retirement. And he was actually suspended by the NFL, and then he retired, and all kinds of chaos there. But yeah, over the last 2 years, this is kind of getting put together. And so he's only been in New England into Tampa for 1 season. So, And I think the remarkable thing is no preseason, and football is all about repetition. So no preseason, no practice time with these players leading into the start of the season, basically. And they were 7-7 or something like that. They didn't have the greatest record coming into the playoffs, and then they rattled off, I think, 7 straight wins to win the Super Bowl. So,
wow,
kind of all you need to know. You don't have to be a football guy to understand he's pretty special.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Amazing. You know what? We have, I was going through the news for the last week, and maybe we can jump into that now because there's a lot that we can talk about. And I will bring up the first thing that I thought was pretty neat and relevant to everybody. Jeff Bezos stepping down.
Wow, I didn't even see that. That is shocking.
Yeah, pretty big, bold move. Now, he had founded the company, I think, in 1997. So he's actually been working for a very long time. If you think about him stepping down, you don't necessarily have to work right to the end. And I think he's done his time. So, and
taking over, I don't know the name, but it's the president of the EWS who will be stepping in.
Andy Jassy. So This is actually a cool article for folks that want to, if they don't already know him from running AWS. So he started in 1997 with Bezos as his technical assistant back then.
Wow.
And he was the one that launched, I think he came up with the idea and launched AWS in 2006.
Unreal.
That's been his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally transformed everything when that happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, landmark. When you think about Gates kind of stepping aside, or Steve Jobs stepping aside, this is the only other. I think the only other equivalent you could have is Bezos stepping aside. He's not really stepping aside. I think he's going to executive president or executive chair or whatever the title is. Of basically, he's chairman of the board. But it just. I chatted with a friend and said, "Can you imagine what that looks like? Like sitting at the chair or the CEO level at Amazon. I mean, that is can't imagine what comes across your desk in a day."
Yeah,
it's just being mind blowing to think of how much work there is there.
I didn't obviously read the article. Has he talked yet about what's next? Like, is it going to be another venture or more philanthropic things like Gates, or hopefully it's a bit of the latter?
He wants to focus on some of his other ventures. So he called out the Washington Post specifically that was an area that he wanted to focus. Mm-hmm. Blue Horizons, his other venture as well, that he wanted to keep, I guess, a little bit more engaged in. So less on the philanthropic side, more on the I want my other businesses to get the Bezos treatment for a while, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think a space race is really going to be on.
Yeah.
With Blue Origin and with SpaceX.
Yeah. It's a good call on this being an important one, though, Boo. I agree. This is, and I don't know if it was planned. It certainly was out of the blue for me. It popped up on my phone and I was like, whoa, what's going on there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's interesting actually is if it's sort of a bit of a tangent, but I watched a really, really incredible documentary called The Dissident recently. Available on, I guess, on Netflix, and it's about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Times reporter, Washington Post reporter, and it was interesting because Bezos bought the Washington Post, and then get pulled into this nightmare of this reporter and his death in the Saudi consulate and all of that. And they're looking at him to say, "What do you do?" And he's like, "This is new. Like nobody, how do you become a political, like a multinational political player in a situation that you don't want to be in?" And so it was interesting to watch the role that he played in the pressure applied to the Saudi government to come clean on what they had done, and the pressure from the United States for the Americans to react, and how Trump reacted, and just pressure from all over the world. So if you guys are looking for a great documentary to watch, it's a bit disturbing. It's a sort of a thrill ride. You never believe it's true. But Bezos plays a fairly prominent role in the back half of it.
Just making a note of that, The Dissident.
Yeah. It'll it's like a John le Carre or like spy novel. Like you're just like, there's no way this could be real, and it's scaringly real.
That is pretty interesting. I guess, as you move up through ranks in corporations, private sector, eventually you get to the point where your problems become as big as global politics.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how political he is, but he got put in the middle of that one. So yeah, pretty amazing. The other bit of news from the past couple weeks really has been GameStop. Now, I just pulled this article. GameStop drama is being developed into a Hollywood movie, and you could almost there's a lot of storylines that are going along with this. But did either of you guys make or lose any money in the past couple weeks with this?
Neither. By the time that hit the news, that was too wild and woolly for my blood. That was, I don't know, even like it's crazy to think it's still going up and down so dramatically.
That is, I'm not that risk. I'm way too risk adverse to play in that space. So,
yeah.
What a crazy story, though. Like, just unbelievable. And I think it's funny how much it you'd see like this sort of the mainstream media bringing on people to talk about the short squeeze and what shorting means, and trying to educate a whole bunch of people that are like, what does all this mean? So it was kind of like you've got one group of people talking about the in-depth economics of it, and then a whole bunch of other people going, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mark Cuban, he went on a number of media outlets, and his opinion has been really cool, I think, in that he pointed out, hey, this has actually caused my teenage kids to actually learn about the stock market and get on and get trading accounts and figure all this stuff out and learn about investing. And I think a lot of people that I know that weren't really into investing whatsoever have started to kind of take a look, not necessarily invest in this, but start to open up their eyes and see that it's not this kind of stuff is a little bit volatile to get into, but there's other stuff that you can get into that's not volatile that you need to be looking at.
I hadn't thought of the angle on a movie, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, they'll be able to crank out a story on this one pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I do find it funny that there's so many of the institutional investors, like the hedge funds that lost money, and they're just up in arms that the SEC should be regulating this, and you can't manipulate the market like this. When clearly the market is manipulated on an everyday basis by these large institutions. So,
and as always, the internet will provide good humor. I saw a tweet or something that popped up that the guys at Blockbuster was like, hey guys, we're over here. Don't forget about us.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There's all kinds of people being like, hey, short squeeze, anytime. We're happy.
Yeah. Do you guys watch the show Billions?
No.
I know of it. I haven't watched it.
Okay. Yeah, that is a dramatization of a hedge fund. So it's actually a pretty good one. There's like multiple storylines. It's mainly around the hedge fund, and then the people, one quantitative analyst who actually kind of splits off, and then they have competing hedge funds. So it's pretty neat to watch.
Well, and the funny guy that, and I haven't seen a lot of them, but the Jordan Belfort, who's the Wolf of Wall Street, he's rematerialized through this as well. So he's now been on a bunch of mainstream media talking about what it means. And he's like, oh, I used to do this all the time. So you're like, they're pulling all the good, like, because Mark Cuban's good TV too, right? He knows exactly what he's doing. So
yeah, market makers have been around since the beginning of the stock market. It's just a different version of them, much.
Yeah, but it's funny when you look at like Mark Cuban, who's not exactly the most PC guy, and then the Wolf of Wall Street guy, who clearly has got his own like, you can bend the rules, and those are the guys sort of talking now about how to do this.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting in that for a hedge fund and that kind of stuff, you have to meet like a certain clip level to be involved in that kind of thing. But anybody can go on Reddit, and then they can move as swift as probably more swift than a hedge fund, and make huge impacts on the market, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, you get the feeling
Sorry, go ahead, Daryl.
No, I was just going to say, you get the feeling that this is not going to go away. This is kind of the new norm. I just don't think they can regulate this out of existence. It's something that the market's going to have to adapt to.
Yep. Well, the shorting was always it's a check on the market in general, and so having the ability to do that is important. Now you've got people realizing that they can play it the other way. So feast or famine for those folks, and that's certainly not how I invest. So I'll watch it, but I don't think I'm going to participate.
Yeah, and I think with maybe with GameStop and AMC, they were playing pretty high risk. They had some analysis in there, like the main guy that I'm sure the movie is going to be about. He had some analysis in there on it. But once Reddit organizes themselves in maybe a more educated way on certain stocks, and they can start to figure out really good picks, I think they'll do a pretty good job if they they make something of it. So yeah.
And it's unregulated, right? It's just people sharing information amongst themselves socially, and that was I think the difference was you had to go to a hedge fund manager or a financial manager or broker to actually do that before. You had to listen, take their direction or convince them to do it, where now you can do it socially. It puts a lot of pressure on those guys. I can understand why they're like, this isn't fair. And it's like, well, it's absolutely fair. We didn't have the option before to ask somebody else's opinion. So
yeah, all there were forums and chat boards and all those sorts of things that were just, so you're days behind by the time you've read it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is it. I think you're right, Daryl, more to come for sure on this one.
Yeah.
And I think another point is that a hedge fund, I mean, they have all these research analysts that are going out and doing all this work to come up with what the move should be. Reddit has a bunch of people, and a number of the folks that were kind of quoted in there, they're at home, not working right now. The main guy that kind of started all of this used to work for, I think he worked for a market research company. And so he was doing all the research, but there's plenty of folks on there that if the market is the way it is, they should have just the same amount of knowledge as a hedge fund would have to research all this stuff. So they can make the same moves.
And they can move much, much faster than the funds can, because they don't have to go, they're not sort of playing the compliance game or the sort of gaining internal agreement on the move before it. Like now they're just letting it stream. So it's going to change a lot of stuff. It's very, very intriguing.
Yeah. Pretty neat to see. On a similar line, Bitcoin up again, $43,000 US. Tesla invested 1.5 into Bitcoin and will be accepting Bitcoin as payment for Teslas.
Interesting.
I didn't know about the accepting payment component. I'd heard that they made the investment. That's cool.
Yeah.
Didn't he just tweet something like a fake Vogue magazine cover with another type of currency, Doge or something like that?
Oh, Dogecoin. Yeah. That's a joke. And drove up that one. Yeah, pretty hilarious.
Yeah, he's the other. It's actually like Boo. I think you've done a great job on this to have both talk about Musk and Bezos in the same sort of newsreel, right? I mean, these are the two guys that are at the forefront of disrupting everything right now.
You wonder if there's some friendly or not so friendly competitiveness between these two. Like Bezos' move seems kind of interesting. You wonder if he's just looking at Elon Musk and what he's doing.
I don't know. I assume if you guys talked about this on previous discussions, but he also made the big move out of California to move to Texas to get away from the tax man and do all of that kind of stuff too, and kind of put some pressure on that way. He's a maverick. He really likes to, and I actually saw him talking about, he was also in the news they tried to make a news story out of him saying hiring non-Americans. And then he talked about the difficulty in getting, in some of his projects, getting approval for the people that he could hire because they work so closely with the U.S. Department of Defense. He's like, I can't really hire many people from outside the United States because we need approval from Department of Defense and other sort of agency level. So he's like, you're making it very difficult for me to hire, and the people and the requirements, the education and the background needed aren't all available in the United States. So I bring over two people and from outside of North America, and you accuse me of not being supporting the United States when really it's your rules that force me to behave this way. So
he calls it as he sees it.
Yeah.
And he's never been shy from confrontation. I don't know if you'd listened to him calling out the CEO of Robinhood on Clubhouse, which is a newer social app there, and they're called him straight out inside of a audio chat room, basically, is what Clubhouse is, and was just putting the pressure on the CEO of Robinhood, going back to the GameStop thing when Robinhood was limiting trading, limiting buys, not limiting sells on GameStop and other of the meme stocks. But he went right at him. He's pretty interesting, and he's also, I find him interesting in that he can, if you ever listen to him on like Joe Rogan podcast or anything like that, he can go from talking about literally rocket science to electric vehicles to how his company operates swiftly without missing anything and completely correct on every single fact, like engineering level discussions.
His capacity is spectacular. He is very brilliant guy to be able to contain all of that. And he's got, as we were just talking about, like the ability to hire and procedural stuff like that would clearly be somebody else's responsibility in the company, but have that top of mind. And then, as you say, go into the technical detail of how the batteries work, or getting to space, or investments. Like he's got incredible capacity. He's very, very intriguing personality. I dare anybody to go toe to toe with him, because you're probably going to lose.
Yeah. No, he's genius for sure.
Keeping up with him and the pace he moves at is interesting. I agree with you, Daryl. I think that the Bezos Musk competition, like Bezos, quiet compared to him.
Right.
But I think those two, like, they're 1 and 2 in the world in terms of net worth as well. So I'm sure it's who's going to win the war around the space race. It's not the individual battle they compare about, but they're looking for massive legacy when they're all done. It's pretty cool to be involved in that. I wonder what a guy like Gates or the folks over at Apple, or the leadership at Alphabet or Microsoft, any of those places probably look at these guys and go, let them go. We'll play somewhere else.
Yeah. There's just no comparison.
No.
I mean, Google maybe a little bit, but yeah.
Even still, these guys are they're creating their own worlds. So
yeah. I mean, Elon has, and I'm sure he's just going to work until he's accomplished everything that he thinks he can accomplish in his life. But he's also numerous times said, like, he's going to spend every one of his dollars getting humans to Mars and allowing us to be able to recolonate over there potentially one day. I think he said, like, it might be 3 generations before that can actually happen, but he's going to spend his lifetime and all of his money moving us in that direction. Sold all of his assets, doesn't own any homes anymore, doesn't own anything anymore. It's just
I saw an interesting comment about these guys too, where they were sort of complaining about the wealth and about, luxury and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a comment about how much he spends on research and development, and that the net jobs and new development and what he's doing. And they're like, you can't look at his value, individual net worth, and say that he hasn't contributed back. I mean, it is tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in R&D to allow people to come up with something new. I mean, he's funding university graduates, like tens of thousands of them, coming out of programs and putting them right to work in roles that never existed before. So I think he's one that you can't really criticize for that. I mean, he's trying to change the world.
Yeah, and literally doing it before our eyes.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Bill Kempthorne just left a message here. You can get a Model X for 2.54 Bitcoin.
I'm short the 2.54 then. That's
Thanks for doing the math for us, Bill.
Yeah.
Cool. Otherwise, I think we're at the end of the show.
Nice.
Good to see you, Ryan, as always.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
A chance to talk too much about Shape, but we're pretty much talking on a daily basis with customers
That's
right
true.
now. Very, very busy in your world right now with Shape, which is great. So next time maybe we can catch up on that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Some new product, some modifications to the existing product sets, but things that Shape are going aggressively, and it's good time. So we're having fun, and appreciate seeing you guys pretty much on a daily basis too. So
great. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Folks. Yeah. Thanks for checking this out today. If you're watching via YouTube right now, go ahead and click subscribe down below. Also click the bell for notifications. That way you will find out when we are dropping a new video or when we're going live. Also, there's DarylBuu.com. If you head over to that, leave your name and email address, we will drop a weekly technical newsletter in your inbox every Monday. Also, this is available via podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify. Head over to one of those, hit subscribe, and you'll be able to listen to us in the car on your commute or during a walk or a run. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.